Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to this special meeting of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee. My name is Nat Welch. I'm the co-chair of the committee, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 4:02 p.m. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be available. Today's agenda was posted on the committee's page on the town's website. I would like to welcome everyone this afternoon to our special meeting. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order of March 12, 2020, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this meeting virtually to ensure public access to the deliberations of the meeting. The public may get to this call through video conferencing or telephone as instructed in the agenda for today's meeting posted on the committee section of the town website. If you haven't already done so, please identify yourself on the screen. I see most of you have. You can do this by clicking on the three dots at the top of the box containing your picture and clicking on the rename feature. I'm going to ask that everyone mute their microphones to limit background noise. And in the event, as always, of technical difficulties, which has happened once, if Zoom becomes unavailable, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the next BFRT, Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee meeting. At this time, I will ask the committee members to indicate that they are present and confirm their audio works. Richard Fallender, co-chair.
Here.
John Soden, member. You're muted, John. I can see you.
Present.
Thank you. Carol Steele.
Present.
Adrian Boardman.
Here.
Dorcas Miller.
Present.
And myself, Nat Welch, I am present. With 6 members, we have a quorum. The minutes for today's meeting will be taken by committee member Adrian Boardman. I'd like to thank you, Adrian, both for taking them today, and for all the other times you've taken them so far. Thank you. This meeting, special meeting, is focused on the topic of what fencing is to be included in the 75% design plan for the last half mile of the trail, which is located between Powder Mill Road and Sudbury Town Line. We requested any other topics that people may want to bring to the table, please be held for our next meeting, which will be on May 6th at a usual time, 7 p.m. Just to recap where we are, the committee, as was part of its extensive work between 2010 and 2016, led by some people on this call today, developed a fencing plan to address a myriad of concerns and issues, which included how to protect the pond, meet safety requirements, and help keep users from wandering off the trail onto private property. The plan was developed and included in the preliminary 75% design plan of that year, which ended up not being submitted for review by Mass DOT. In the past 60 days, as the town moved towards finalizing the current 75% design plan, which is due next week, new information surfaced from Mass DOT, Department of Transportation, relative to the design plan that was reached in 2016. At our last meeting, a number of issues and concerns were raised by abutters and residents. The purpose of the meeting this afternoon is to hear what the town intends to submit as a 75% design plan, taking into account the comments, concerns, and questions raised by the public and by members of the committee. For today, the agenda will start with Marcia Rasmussen, the Director of Land Use and Planning. I believe I have that correct. And she will share the current fencing ideas that will be in the 75% design plan and other issues related to that. And she and others have been working very hard over the past 3 weeks to come up with this in order to address the questions raised. Then going to ask committee members to comment and ask questions, and then we will open the discussion to the public. And I will ask at the public discussion that you raise your hand so we can see it. Please identify yourself with your name and address for the record. I request that each speaker please try to limit their comments to a couple of minutes and focus on not recounting history, if possible, but concisely offer up questions, comments, concerns for consideration. This will allow everyone to have a chance to speak, and this is a public forum, so you can actually talk about anything you want. I'm just asking this as a request to give everyone a chance to talk. It's the intent of the co-chair, subject to a motion by the committee, to fulfill our charge take a roll call vote on advising the town regarding the submission of the plan at the end of the discussion. I'd remind everyone that there is still a last 100% design plan to be filed at some point in the future. Thank you for listening to my introduction. Are there any comments or questions from the committee before we start? Then I would like to invite Marcia Rasmussen to take the floor and guide us through what the town plans to deliver.
Well, I appreciate everybody's comments that I've received, and I apologize. I've got the sun streaming in and I'm pretty washed out, but appreciate the comments that have been received after our meeting on April 1st. I reviewed a lot of the information that I had available. I communicated with our design consultant, confirmed that the 75% design plans did not need to be submitted until next week, the 28th. And then in consultation with Delia Kay, have not received any further information from in writing from the state. So excuse me, there's a person I need to admit. So I proceeded to direct our design consultant to revise the plans as, and I'd like to review them with you all. If I may here. What I directed our design consultant to do is to continue to show a timber rail fence on the westerly side of the trail, which is the side that abuts the Stone Root Lane properties. It would be a 2-rail fence rather than a 3-rail fence. And there would be openings provided at various locations that would be landscaped, so that there won't be any gates, but that there would, but the fence would continue to be a visual indication of where people should remain on the trail. So if we proceed, this begins at Powder Mill Road. I'm going to so the northern end and proceed south. It starts at the very beginning where the pavement currently ends and was installed with 2C, and then would continue. Oh, it's not going to let me move from one. Okay. So first we would come to the Vernal Pool, where there would be the 3-rail fence to protect people from falling off that slope, but again, the 2-rail fence would continue on the westerly side, another opening in the gate or in the fence with landscaping. And then as we approach the White Pond area on the easterly side, another timber rail fence. This would be a 3-rail fence, I believe, with the ornamental fence as agreed upon, as located at the Cochituate Lake State Park. Thank you, Jim Cottret, for providing that additional information and the additional photographs, which we do have and will be posting on the town's website on the planner.
One comment, in case it's not clear, the yellow areas are where the fences are,
Where the
and the
fences
green are the openings. Great, thank you.
Correct. And at White Pond, the wrought iron fence would continue for a majority of the property. We had a conversation about the possibility of creating a break, and I'd like to, I'm going to stop share for just a moment and show this picture, which was taken on the Shining Sea bike path as a way of getting people off of the trail and creating, I would not recommend benches, but perhaps some large stones. I don't know that we need bike stanchions or anything, but just to give people an opportunity to pause, to read an interpretive panel, and to you know, take some time to view White Pond at that location. This is a topic of conversation. It's not something that needs to go forward, but knowing of the requests that we have had so far for additional seating along the bike path, I thought this might be a point where we could break, we could provide some educational materials and give people a chance to appreciate the White Pond. So this is a concept. It's not one that I'm married to, but I just thought this is a really cool idea. This is a sort of an indication of a 2-rail fence, but it is not wood. It is the like a tieback. So I'll go back to the plans for just a minute. Bear with me. So, so what's showing currently on the plan and can be revised before next Wednesday is that little break with where some boulders may be positioned, and that would be where the right now where the wrought iron fence is shown as ending, and then the wood rail fence being continued. This would probably be a 2-rail. It may be a 3-rail. We haven't finalized that decision with a gate or opening in the fence to connect to this would connect to the property for the Old Picard Trust land. Again, on the westerly side, the fence continues, and then there's a break with landscaping and so forth that continues on. I'll go to the next, go up to the next page. Then where we have an issue with the steps that go into the town's conservation land, that is considered a trailhead. It may need to be removed as part of the, because it is not ADA accessible, and the federal highway, the federal standards for this kind of project requires that all trailheads be accessible. So we need to re-examine this issue as we move forward. We don't have, as I said, we have no comments yet from the state on their on what may or may not be required. But again, continuing down the length of the trail, there would be another break in the fence with landscaping on the westerly side. And then that would continue to the town line and end at the town line. So that's what I've recommended be posted on the, I'm going to stop sharing. That was what was recommended, that the design consultant continue. I received the plans at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so I'm sorry that I was unable to get them posted for everyone to take a look at. I will try to get these up tomorrow with my staff taking care of that, hopefully. But as I said, they're not 100% ready to be filed yet. I have comments yet. I'm reviewing them. So, but that's the proposal that I will be putting forward with much of the documentation that has been provided from the past, as well as from residents in the past couple of days. So that ends my presentation, Nat.
Thank you, Marcia. Committee members, questions, comments?
I do like that little sitting area. I think that gives it a nice flavor.
Okay.
Marcia, can you clarify something that you said in your introduction? So following the last meeting that we had, did I hear you correctly that you haven't received anything from the state in terms of like formal observations from the site visit that was done, I think, a month ago? Was that correct?
That is correct. Nothing in writing that I can share with all of you.
So based on what we all discussed during our last meeting and based on what you heard from them during that site visit, are there any red flags that you identify in what you're proceeding to submit that we should maybe make sure we discuss? Or do you think that this represents a happy medium maybe between the initial and what they are? I'm just curious what your reaction or your, if you had a crystal ball, what you would think.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I think by using a fence that is not considered their safety fence, the 3-rail fence, and recommending or suggesting the 2-rail, by providing landscaping and breaks in that fence so that, there isn't that provision of gates. And using and stating clearly that this is intended to be a visual element to sort of indicate to people that you should stay on the trail. I noticed in that photo that I showed that the fencing continues a great distance, and it's a good a visual indication of where the trail is and why you should stay on it. So it's a reduced cost fence. It's less of one on the westerly side that's being recommended. I didn't hear anything. I don't think that Mass DOT has ever considered a wrought iron fence as the type that's being that was identified and recommended by earlier advisory committee members. And I felt that there wasn't a strong indication that we shouldn't go forward with at least proposing it. We'll hear the concerns, we'll hear the issues. I have had further conversations with Concord Town Manager Stephen Crane that if the Mass DOT says we're not going to pay for it, I'm ready to go to the the Community Preservation Committee and submit another grant, and hopefully we'll have the support of the Friends and the Old Picard Trust Fund, Old Picard Trust
Trustees.
To farm. It's the farm. I couldn't remember the F. To have those two groups providing letters of support for the town's request to fund that wrought iron fence. So I think that there are ways of addressing the issue if the state says, no, we're not going to do that. I also had correspondence from I believe a member of the trustees, Andrea Oki, indicating that they would not have a lock on the gate, but would welcome signage that indicates that this is private property for the private use of the Old Picard Farm Trust. And I think that is a great compromise solution to the issue of access.
Thank you.
Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I on the gating issue, which I wanted to bring up, I think that, yeah, it was pretty clear from the state's representative that a locked gate was not an option, even if they were to approve the fence. So I think that the willingness to have a gate gives access to the trust members, and you have the sign on it. I think that's a good compromise. And I also think that the fencing plan, as you presented, Marcia, is really addressing the spirit of what, the years of work that's gone into this project. I think it addresses that, and we'll see where the state goes. So given the feedback we got from the state and the obviously concerns of the community and the history of the project, I think personally this is a good way to go, and we'll see how it pans out as we move forward in the process.
Committee members, other comments? I'd like to clarify a couple of things. One is the changes from the 2016 include a full 2-rail fence all the way along the west side. Did I read that right? With the gates.
The full half mile.
Right, the full half mile. Okay.
Which is 6 breaks, and I've suggested that those breaks occur at where individuals' property lines connect to, approximately where they might connect, so that it's not in the middle of someone's backyard, but at the corners of their yards.
Okay.
So the 6 breaks would also be landscaped.
Okay. Continuing the idea that the landscaping would say this really isn't a place you should walk through, but it allows the residents to do that. Mm-hmm. Am I right in thinking that on either side of the wrought iron fence you've added some additional wood rail fence to protect more of that area than was originally proposed in the 2016 design?
Only, I think on the northerly side, yes. On the southerly side, no. The fence extended quite a ways down, okay, along the trust property.
Okay, and then the bump out is a new feature, and I along with Dorcas think it's a kind of a cool idea, but I'm curious to hear what what residents feel. And then the trailhead issue, what I understand is we are submitting the trailhead plan as is and waiting for the state to say it's not ADA compliant or whatever the review process is, they'll come back to us and tell us something. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, great. I think that's all the questions I have, and I would echo Richard's comments that I really appreciate the work that you and the consultants have put into this. And I feel like, it's a listen to a lot of what was raised over the last 2 meetings that I've attended. Any other committee comments or questions before we open it up to the public? Okay, I'm going to make a choice, even though he hasn't raised his hand yet, but I'm going to call him Mr. Kutra because he's been quite active in this. I hope no one else feels slighted, but he's at the top of my screen, and I'm sure you have something you want to say. So
Thank you. And well, thank you, committee and Marcia Rasmussen. We do have, I'm certain, an opinion on the bump out being as inviting to walk a couple of more feet over to where there's an entrance to the trust property. And that's of concern to us. It's just an invitation. We think that the fencing itself provides a lot of look through. And on the other side, I'm even compromised from the perspective of, I want people to enjoy White Pond, just not trespass and not get into that risky safety area where it falls off very steeply. But those are my initial reactions to this, and appreciate the work that everybody, Marcia and your department, have done.
Okay, thank you. Other members of the public? Could you raise your hand? Katie Blair, I see, raised her hand first. Please identify yourself. And you're on mute, by the way, so it's going to be hard.
Thanks for the reminder. Kate Blair, 20 Darton Street, and acting president of Friends of White Pond. Thank you all for doing all this work. I can't remember from the meetings that I attended years ago what the iron fence was about versus, I thought there was a chain link fence that was going to be put up. Perhaps that was the safety fence that the state was not liking. Was that right? I don't remember. Anyway, I agree that a bump out, especially with bike stanchions, would be at the wrong message to send. We want to make sure that people don't go down the slope, leave their bicycles there and go down the slope and use the pond. I also want to say that I would write a letter of support. Marcia mentioned that she wanted letters of support in case the town wanted to, whatever, for the CPOA money. I would be happy, the Friends of White Pond would be happy to send a letter if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments and questions? Andrea, please.
Hey there, Andrea Oki, 12 Stone Root Lane, and one of the old Picard Trust trustees. First, thank you, Marcia and committee for listening to the concerns raised during the last discussion, and appreciate the effort that most certainly went into quickly revising the plans. I just want to echo the agreement with the concern with the location of the proposed bump out, and then have several clarifying questions, please. First is with regard to the location of the proposed fencing, both on the west side and the east side. Could you please clarify where relative to the 100-foot right-of-way the proposed fencing is located? Is it at the end of the 100 feet right-of-way on both sides, or is it in closer to the actual paved portion of the trail? And
okay. Do you want to ask all your questions and then answer it?
However is easier for you.
Why don't we go ahead and answer each one, and that way we can.
Okay. As far as the location of the trail, it would be at the edges of the trail itself. So you have the 10-foot wide path, and then the 2-foot stone dust shoulders on each side, and then the fencing would be installed. So it's a 14-foot wide pathway with the fencing located at those edges,
Right.
not at the property line. I did that because placing the fencing along the property line means more trees and the landscape will be impacted. So trying to minimize the number of trees that we might have to take down.
Great, great. And just speaking as an individual, I agree with that approach. The second clarifying question is with respect to signage. Are you proposing including signage along both the west side and the east side along that half mile, to the effect of private property, no public swimming, no trespass? Would it go along the entire half mile on both sides, or is the proposed signage just along that east side trust property?
I think we would put private property at each of those breaks in the fence on the west side that abuts that is nearest the Stone Root Lane residence. And then there would probably be several locations along the easterly side as you see White Pond.
And would they, just to build on Andrea's question, would the signs be similar to what you see riding towards West Concord before you hit the bridge? There are a couple of signs that say private property.
I think we can talk about that. Not everybody likes the metal signs of those. And so we were working with Natural Resources to see if we can do a wooden sign, and maybe we can, if there's, I'd like to work with whatever the neighborhood would like to see. If you would like a more naturalistic wooden sign that has that information versus a metal sign that follows the state standards, we can explore that in the next
Phase.
next couple of months. Well, I don't think we have to have everything answered right now, but I think we need to work toward that, and would love to get it done sooner rather than later.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry, Andrea, please go ahead.
No, that's a great answer. So thank you. The one comment I would have, just based on your response, with respect to the east side, I think most certainly the trust members would like explicit no swimming signs, no public swimming, whatever it is. But I imagine that others, perhaps the White Pond Preservation Committee would be interested in broader signage with respect to swimming along the broader east side fencing.
So would the signs about no public swimming be further down at the property line perhaps? Or are you, because if we're saying no trespassing, this is private property, no trespassing, I don't even want to indicate along the trail anyway that there's public swimming.
Sure.
So my recommendation would be that to have no public swimming located at the property line.
That makes sense. I suppose I am speaking from the perspective of an individual and not just with regard to the trustee land, just thinking about the attractive nature of White Pond beyond the trust property.
Thank you, Andrea. Kelly Roberts, you had your hand up. Thank you. You may go ahead.
Hi, this is Brandon Roberts at 80 Stone Root Lane in Concord, Mass. Just wanted to clarify on the trail, on the ornamental fence. First of all, that it is 6 foot high.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then where it ends on the south side, I wasn't clear on where that ends. There's a trail head, if you will, there, and then there's a hill there. So is the fence going ending at the hill there? I wasn't clear on where that is. If you could clarify.
You want to bring it up, Marcia?
I'm going to see if I can bring it up. Yes.
Okay, great. And while she's bringing it up, any comments on the berm, Mr. Roberts?
You mean the bump
breakout?
out? Yeah, not a fan. I think it just invites people, especially if there's places to lock your bike. I think that would be a disaster. I think.
Yeah, that wasn't proposed, but yeah.
Yeah, that was mentioned. I think there's going to be thousands of people on this trail. The less we invite people to go swimming there, the better. So, blinders on, keep moving down the trail is going to be the best for the least impact on the pond. We have, the whole swimming on the other side. There's construction going on in Sudbury for another 400 housing project going over there. It's just, it's just going to be, we've seen increase in activity there with COVID, it's just going to be exponential traffic there. So the more we make it keep moving, nothing to see here. I mean, given within reason, okay, a nice a spot, I think is best for the health of the pond, frankly.
Okay.
So there's an existing path. This is where the Old Picard Farm Trust land, that's the designated point where it's the open space piece and where it crosses. And then there's a path that comes down and it goes off around the pond. I think in this kind of direction, if you follow the hand, the pond is
Yes.
over here. So there's quite a bit of distance where this, and I believe that it starts sloping up right about this location. I don't have the grades on this plan, which makes it difficult for me to determine. Let's see if I can find
Well,
something else.
if that's the case, then is it flat? So it seems like that fence, again, I'm not exactly sure where it's ending. You're saying where that trailhead, it's
What-
ending
what-
there. I see that, but
What is shown on the plan, this is where the wrought iron fence would end and a wood fence would continue down to,
but the wood fence is abutting where that trail head is now. So I guess why aren't we continuing the wrought iron to, I guess, past that? Because access to that trailhead, I think, is kind of what we want, limiting to the property. Somebody else correct me if I'm wrong on thinking where that position is.
so you're suggesting maybe continuing it down to and beyond where the berm begins?
Yeah, where it rises up and people aren't, really invited to climb a hill to get to the other side. I guess my thought would be continue the wrought iron until that spot where you don't need a fence anymore. All that section in the middle there's access to the land there. A two rail or three rail isn't going to really do much. Why end it? I don't know, 50, 100 feet. I can't see.
It's
the scale.
150 feet. These are, see the numbers in the
Yeah, yeah.
middle? Those are
Yeah.
stations, and that's 100 feet between each station. The midpoint is that little slash. So if you go from 14 down to 1250, it's 150 feet. So
Yeah, so it looks like that's right across from the Old Picard Farm Trust, right?
Yep.
correct.
Yeah. so
Excuse
that-
me, Marcia, could you just use your scroll bar to show the rest of that view that's just a little bit lower?
Well, the lower view is the next,
Oh, I'm sorry.
It
It
Below
is
looked
the
like
next-
To the trail, yeah.
yeah,
can't really
the
see,
next
yeah,
trail.
The rest of the pond there.
And
They
if-
stack them, yeah.
If I need to go up, this is,
Got to go left to right to go north and south.
right. So it makes it a little challenging.
I guess my vote would be to continue that until the increase in elevation from the trail going up, so that, again, it's a complete fence along the Picard Trust property there.
All right.
And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Excuse me again, Marcia? You just had your cursor on the iron fence on that lower section.
Mhm.
At what postmark was that?
Uh,
That's what I was hoping you were scrolling down for.
That's 14. And it ends on the northerly side, where I guess this is White Ave,
Got it.
into the property.
Got it. So approximately the location that we did on the sidewalk,
Right.
so that the people from White Ave can also access
Right.
their particular
Right.
beachfront.
And-
Got it. That's what I was concerned with.
Okay.
And,
There
and
were two gates in the fence on the easterly side, one for White Ave, one for Old Picard Farm Trust.
And does that fence, the metal fencing is indicated, Jim, does that reflects what you guys talked about a number of years ago, correct?
Well, I've given you and Marcia the photographs and the details on Ameristar's fence.
Yep.
And that's what I believe Marcia has used here.
Okay, good.
It
So-
it was what was used previously in 75% design drawings that were on the website.
Okay. So the question here is exploring adding another 100 feet to the fence. Is that right, Marcia? Not 120
Yes.
feet. Okay. Okay.
So I would like some direction, I think, from, have the advisory committee make a determination of how you would like to treat that.
Okay. So that should be as part of a motion. We should advise you to, we'll talk about it and then advise you. We don't know about budget or anything like that because we have no control over that. So, okay. Okay, good. I'll make a note of that. Other.
Matt, can I ask a question about the
Yes.
fencing, since we're on that right now? My impression is that the fencing as shown on the plan, that's where you actually see the pond. If the fence were to be extended further south, it would you're not really seeing the pond at that point. Is that correct or not?
You can probably begin seeing the pond about station 13.
Okay.
Not down here, but
Okay.
about station 13, because it flattens out and levels out, and you begin to catch a glimpse of that as you're heading
Okay.
northerly.
Because I think that again, the notion of the fence in terms of the public interest is to ensure that people don't start going down that bank directly into White Pond, and here's a way to prevent that. Extending the fence into an area that is not directly at the pond, I'm not sure that is going to solve a problem of the kind of person who would just go around that fence anyway, if you know what I mean. That's my feeling about the fence being extended beyond kind of that viewscape at the pond.
So if you can see it, are you saying, Richard, if where you start to see the pond is where the fence should stop?
I think that was the intent initially and originally is to do that. And I understand the public good of doing that. Extending it
to 13.
Old Card Trust land goes further into the woods or in I'm not sure that's you've got the other 3-rail fence. I agree it's not as security minded as the other fence, but the wrought iron fence, in my understanding, and again, there have been people dealing with this for a lot longer than I have, is that it's a particular spot that needs to be particularly protected.
Right.
So may I suggest that we leave this a little open, but what I can do is talk with the consultant about where the change in grade begins. And then we'll have that conversation that we will extend the wrought iron fence at least to where the grade begins to rise, where the berm begins to increase,
Okay.
and maybe 20 feet beyond that. And then if necessary, extend a wooden fence to, again, indicate that visual cue that you really should be staying on the path at this location.
Okay. Any, I can't see everybody. Josh Galper, yes.
Thank you. I'd like to add for both the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Committee and also the town, I think the fencing matter along the trail should also be considered in light of the town's ownership of the beach. The amount of trash that's left currently at White Pond is substantial. I and others actually do regular pickup of trash. I think that regarding the budget, especially, this is something that the beach folks could be approached and recognize that the protection of the pond and lack of use of the pond from increased rail trail traffic would be in their interest as well. Things like reducing algae blooms and literally trash in the pond. So thank you.
Josh, can you give an address, please, just so we have it?
65 Stone Root Lane.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comment. Jim, I see you, and go ahead. And I see Ms. Holmes also.
Okay, one of the concerns that I just had was all of a sudden not understanding the drawing that we just saw. That fence should have gone all the way down to about station 10.5 or 9.5.
The wooden?
That wrought iron fence, wrought iron fence. And there were plenty of places that we inspected where mountain bikes were going up that slope. And even the slope didn't meet the ASHCO regulations at that point in time. And those documents were submitted into the committee's record and into the town. So I want to make certain that the wrought iron fence is showing to the end of the trust property. On the north or south end, rather, I'm sorry. Marcia,
There's
does
the
that exist?
Yeah.
I have a problem with that, but that's gonna, because I think it's an expense. And so it'll be up to, the state is definitely not going to fund that portion. And would probably be looking at a two rail wooden fence just to, again, keep that, to provide some sort of visual cue. But I will leave that up to the advisory committee to how they would wish to proceed. I think having the two different kinds of fences would be an alternative and would definitely support that. But I don't know that I could, just.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm wondering then if the fence goes to that, why doesn't the fence just go all the way to the Sudbury line then? I mean, wouldn't that make, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
I mean,
Go the whole way? Because if it's at some point, somebody goes around the fence, right? If they're that kind of person. And again, my understanding is that the fence was designed specifically to deal with this one specific area.
The original fence,
With the public good.
right, the original fence, just for the committee members, I'm looking at the original plans, runs from station 990, which is almost station 10, to where it's currently indicated in the plans that Marcia shared. So the change is to run the fence to where the swale, the berm begins. This is what Marcia is suggesting. We run the wrought iron fence where the berm begins, and then we continue with a wooden fence some distance. Right, so it is, Jim, a difference from the original plan of running the wrought iron fence. I think the question of cost then comes into play. So I'm not sure what to do with it. But Marcia, you have suggested we run the fence to station roughly 13, where you get a view of the pond, and then a wooden fence south of there for some length.
Right.
Comments? First,
And I would be willing to recommend it go to station 10, but because it isn't that there to protect the pond. It's simply along the line of the trust property. That's where I see a bit of a disconnect, and I'd like to put something forward that, Mass DOT would have a little bit more of a challenge to deny. And if we can, I think we can make the case that where it's visible, that this is a way of seeing through while still protecting the pond itself. So that was
and the wooden fence also helps.
Yeah.
If you extend it farther.
Right.
It's not the wrought iron, but you could argue that it is, it is keeping people from going to the public nuisance or whatever, the attractive nuisance. I'm sorry. Pond is not a public nuisance, it's an attractive nuisance. Before I go back to you, Jim, Ms. Holmes had a comment. I'd just like to give her a chance. Yeah, you're muted, I believe. Oh, try again. No, it looks when you're unmuted, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you. I don't know what the issue is, but we can't hear you.
Maybe the volume's down on the computer, whatever.
While she's working on that, Jim, what would you like to say?
Well, one of the things that you should also look at in the trust land and the town reservation land are where the town trails are very close In fact, they actually overlap in some areas, the trust property. And that's one of the concerns that we had. And Ken Miller did a good job ultimately as they built the trails to say, hey, look, this is where the trail ends, but the path continues. And that's what we're also not, and that's in the trust property. There's two paths that go back there. They both start very close to that swale.
Mhm.
And what we really want to do is, not give people any indication that that's public land, because it's not.
Right, well, the gate will
But yeah.
hopefully identify it as private. So
So I think that, while what Marcia is suggesting can possibly achieve, as long as we're putting up a rail, wooden rail, after some substantial length of wrought iron after that swale, so that nobody just goes right around the edge. I think that, I could support that, but we do have to make sure it's done, because there is that easy, I'm a mountain biker myself. I saw the trails going up that slope.
Right.
And it doesn't meet ASHCO.
okay, so it sounds like we have a wooden, the wrought iron fence to the Station 13, Marcia, you had mentioned, and then a wooden fence beyond that, and that will be what you submit, and we'll see what they say with regard to.
I'll have it go the length of the old Picard Fund Trust property to almost to those stairs, definitely.
Miss Glendon, or Ms. Glendon, or Ellen, however you want me to refer to you, sorry.
Ellen,
Hi.
thank you. I may be a little bit lost in the conversation, particularly because I unfortunately had to join late. But going back to an earlier statement about the beam, the land rise, I thought that it went past the easement, and I have to put my glasses on and off, but I thought on the map that I'm looking at, that was beyond the curve of the land. So going south, I thought that the easement dumped out around between station, let's just say roughly 13 and 12. And the beam was south of 12. That's what I thought. I could be wrong, but in some conversations and in walking it recently, that's what I thought was where the land went up. So that would certainly continue beyond what I think was being discussed of around, anyway, I forgot the numbers.
Station 13.
Yeah.
Ellen, I need to confirm where the berm actually starts in relationship to those center lines. So if it started at Station 12, the fence, I would have have it shown that the wrought iron fence goes to Station 12 and then extend the balance to Station 10 with the wood rail. But I think it's wherever the pond becomes visible is where we want that change in fencing. So
right. Yes, thank you. I understood you to say that. I was just saying that I think it extends beyond what we're sort of specifically talking about right now. And then the other piece, which relates back to the trails, where the steps are going to access the Concord land from the Concord trails. Could the ornamental wrought iron fence go all the way down to that point and maybe even just slightly turn the corner? Because that would sort of say all of this land here is protected as access to the pond in any fashion. You can't just jump around it. And once you're on the trail as published and walked, then like good trail walkers, hikers, we're supposed to stay on the trail. And that too would be a visual indicator that here's the trail, you're welcome to go down to the public land, but you stay on the trail and you don't go off into these other areas that are prone to erosion or private or whatever. So that's it's just a thought. And again, taking it out of, it belongs to this property, it's sort of covering that whole area.
I think what I'm recommending though is using the wood rail fence in that location and taking it to just about to those steps.
Okay.
Right.
Trailhead.
Because I think the other thing we have to be concerned about is how the state will respond to these kinds of fences and why. And this is why the letters that have been provided could be helpful from the environmental and protection of the pond piece. So we should, I think, incorporate these comments, Marcia, in our advice to you, to the town when we vote. So I'll make sure that's in the motion.
I also just wanted to say, as I drove past the culvert the other day, there was, and I've seen this before, bicycles standing up on the bank, going down the bank. So people are definitely doing it already, and it's just at the culvert. So anecdotal information, but as of a day ago.
Yeah. Yes, I think, and I think the thing to remember is we should try and do as much as we can, but there's no accounting for human behavior. And, we're trying to, the committee's trying to make sure we do the most we can within the context of the regulations and all the other things, and also trying to address residents' concerns. But I was over at Junction Park and watched 3 people look at the sign and then ride right through on their bike. So, we hope we can at least get some people focused right. Other questions or comments? Ms. Holmes, are you back live?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are. Good. Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm at 211 Stern Route Line. I just have a quick question. I apologize. I missed the very beginning of, Marcia, of your presentation. But with regard to the west side of the trail, do I understand that you're now submitting a plan that has a split rail fence all the way down the west side for the abutters?
What I've asked the consultant to show is a 2-rail fence along the full half mile with 6 breaks in the fence, and those breaks will be landscaped. So that, and maybe we can just leave some of them open so that people have access. And those breaks in the fence would be at where property lines come together. So that's what I'm recommending, and we'll see what the state comes back with. But when I was on another trail recently, it provides a great visual cue, and I think we can make that argument, even though there's this extent of land between. I mean, the closest house is 85 feet from the property line of the state's property line, but trying to keep people on the trail where they should be is, I think, what the goal is, and that's the argument that I will be making.
We're not pushing safety. We're pushing keeping people on the trail. That's the intent. That's kind of the strategy we're trying to follow. Okay.
Great. Yep.
Just go ahead. All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm conscious that Marcia has another meeting she has to attend in a few minutes. Are there other questions that folks have that we can answer? Carmen, yes, please. You're muted. I'm sorry. A name and address. Thank you.
Carmen Jacquier, 38 Shore Drive, White Pond Advisory Committee. Marcia, I really appreciate the work you've done trying to get this fencing back in. And our committee will give you any letters of support that you would like.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Do I hear any other questions or comments? Does the select board want to weigh in at all on any comments? I know you're lurking there. But okay, you don't have to. Okay, good.
Nat and Marcia, I just wanted to circle back quickly on what you think, Marcia, is going to be on the plan you're submitting with regards to the bump out and the benching discussed. I know that there was a lot of concerns around not wanting to invite people to park their bikes and find a sneaky way to go down. But I also see a lot of merit just along the path in general. I think there's very few spots for people to be able to sit, have a rest, little kids to have a snack, tie a shoe. So I think there's merit to having a safe place for people to kind of remove themselves of the trail to sit. And I certainly understand the concerns of we don't want people to park and, access, but I wonder if there's other ways that we can plan for just having a nice place for families to rest, if that's a logical place to maybe do so.
That's a really good point. And there was a plan to have an interpretive panel in approximately that location. So what's shown is a little bit broader and bigger than what was initially proposed. What was being proposed is just a little, 5 by 10 area that would be off the trail for the interpretive panel. We might just stick one boulder there so somebody could sit down and tie their shoe or take take a drink.
Mhm.
That can, if that's the direction you would prefer that I go in, that's what we will go with.
And that would be a wrought iron fence. I think we've got.
That would be a wrought iron fence
Right.
location, yes.
Right. We have some strong pushback, I think, on the bump out.
Mhm.
And to Adrian's point, I don't know where Sudbury has a breakout. I mean, there's some, once the trail is there, this isn't just about the half mile, it's about, what's happening in the area. So we have the exit by Powder Mill, and I know at 117 or North Road, there's a fair amount of space and things that Sudbury's doing there. I mean, speaking personally, not a member of the not the co-chair, a member. I like the idea of a bump out, and I also empathize with the concerns that it's another attractive nuisance to.
I'm wondering if one location might be on the at the Powder Mill culvert on the side that's already completed. There's a fair amount of space in that area, so it might be able to make a seating area there that would be not much of a view, but it is a place to rest or
Well, if the tunnel art is done, who knows? It could be a
yeah, I mean, that might be. I mean, I like the bump out idea, but I completely hear what people are saying in that regard. I mean, it's unfortunate that this
I was
situation,
gonna
but I mean,
suggest
that might be
very
something that we could work on our own to just, I guess we need state permission to do anything, but that might work as a place.
Okay. Ms. Jones, you were saying something, or no? Okay.
I was gonna say to Richard, that's a location that I was gonna suggest.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of space there and there are some boulders there. And if it were done a little more formally, that could be a good spot.
Yeah, great minds think alike, Beth.
There you go.
Well, you guys can have a conversation.
Yeah, well, we've had a few over the years.
All right, so if there's any other comments from the committee, questions?
I don't know if Ellen Glendon didn't lower her hand.
Oh, did you lower your hand, Ellen, or?
Actually, I did, and I raised it again.
Okay.
Or maybe I got it backwards. I was just going to say at the culvert, well, along the switchback, I think to discourage people from zooming down that on their bikes, there are a number of boulders already, long boulders that sort of seem like a bench, and that people already do sit there and sort of converse. They sort of spill out into the street as well, so it's better to keep it away from the street area.
Okay.
But what I was going to say is I really like the idea of the 2-rail wooden fence. As a bike rider with a small child many years ago now, we used to sit on the edge of that low fence as you ride in Lexington. And certainly even as I go there now, lots of people are sitting, and that's so that it being that low and wide enough to sort of sit, tie your shoe, rest your bike, eat your sandwich, get your water, fix whatever. I think that that's very helpful to have that along both sides in both directions. So just saying that's a good, I like that change.
Thank you.
I just want to, those large boulders, those blocks are leftovers from when the railroad went through there, and there was a bridge. And so rather than burying them, the contractor thought it would be really great to just be able to use them in place and keep them on site. So I'm glad to hear people think that they're contributing, and just wanted you to know that history.
Thank you. Mr. Kutra?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand what's going to be done now with that wrought iron fence. It will extend southward beyond where the slope, the berm begins, beyond the swale, and beyond where you can still get a line of sight. And it might be 20 or 30 feet beyond that last point, so that it isn't still an easy, hey, let's just hop that 2-rail wooden fence and come around, because there's not enough.
Right. That's my understanding. What Marcia's going to talk to the
Excellent
about. Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, I would. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the plan as designed by Marcia with 2 changes. One change being the Suggested changes to the wrought iron fence and 2 rail fence on the east side, heading down to around station 10. And the second is to remove the bump out and recommend that the town consider something closer to Powder Mill Road, where the rail is. Does that accurately reflect what the committee members feel comfortable with? If it does, can I have Richard?
I'll second that.
Okay. We'll take a roll call vote from the committee. I'll get my cheat sheet here. So that vote on that motion, which has been recorded by Adrian, thank you. At this time, Richard, your vote?
Aye.
John Soden?
Aye.
Carol Steele? Carol, you're muted, I'm sorry. That's it.
Okay. Aye.
Aye. Adrian? Borgman?
Aye.
Dorcas Miller?
Aye.
And I'm Nat Welch, myself, I vote aye as well. The motion is passed by unanimous vote. Are there any other questions or concerns from the committee?
Thank
Okay,
you.
can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. And I forgot, Marcia, do I need to vote on that or can we just adjourn?
I think we have to.
We have to vote, okay, good. All right, Adrian,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Dorcas,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
myself, I vote aye as well. This meeting is adjourned as of 5:03 p.m. Our next meeting is May 6th. Thank you, everybody, for attending and for your help.